Hey guys, welcome to a different type of video than you will be seeing on the future of this channel. This is a tamer, much calmer video that I wanted to make so that I could reference back to it in future projects and videos. And I also wanted to make this so that anybody who comes across it will see a level-headed, non-toxic community that the audiophile world is, instead of some raging idiot who's spewing off nonsense like future videos on this channel is going to be. So, in this video, it's going to be all about audiophile stuff. Personally, I'm relatively new, however, I do feel confident enough to share what I've learned with you, which is why I feel I'm pretty well set to go ahead and make this video, because I'm just now getting into it, which means I'm not some veteran who's trying to keep people out. This is, like I said, going to be a level-headed video to introduce anybody who's interested in the hobby of audiophile and get them into it. So, without further ado, this video is going to be broken up into multiple segments. First segment is going to be all about types of headphones. The second segment is going to be things like charts and what you want to look for when you're looking into headphones. And the final segment's going to be just about everything else. So portability, what you were looking for other than in charts, and that sort of stuff. So for the first segment, we have different types of headphones. Here I have a pair of open backs and a pair of closed backs, and then the third type will be semi-open back. So we're going to go ahead and start out with open back. Open back has much better soundstage than the other two, which are closed back and semi-open back. The problem with that, and as you'll see when we get over into the chart, is there's some sub-bass roll-off. Now, you're probably going to have no idea what that means, but if you like big booming bass, maybe open backs aren't for you. Also, open backs leak a lot. So this, you might not be able to tell, is filled with tons of tiny little holes. This allows for that sound stage, that openness, and it's also very useful if you're trying to listen to somebody talk to you while you have your headphones on. However, that sound leak I was talking about means everybody can hear everything you're doing on your headphones. So if you're going to be on a bus, if you're going to be in a dorm room with a roommate and listening to music in the same room, or if you're going to be, babysitting or anything, you're not going to want these. You're only going to go with the closed back or maybe even semi-open back, because those aren't as bad with sound leakage. Another downside of open back is most of them, in fact, I don't know of any open back headphones, don't have noise canceling. So again, if you're commuting or anything, these are not going to be for you. These are purely for people who want a big soundstage, which is beneficial to both gamers and people who are mixing or making or even just listening to music. In fact, these are what I'm editing this video with right now. And then we have closed back headphones. This is what you're going to be most familiar with and see in most places. The benefits to these are no sub-bass roll-off. You're going to get good bass with these, no matter really what pair you choose. However, because it is closed back, there's no big soundstage. So it's harder to hear footsteps in the distance in video games, and it's harder to have directional audio in music. And there's some songs with open back headphones where you can, as long as they have good surround built in, you can hear where every single instrument is coming from and where it was recorded. In fact, an old type of recording style, and you might even be able to find some examples of this online, is they literally put a microphone in the middle of a band, and that way there was everybody playing it. It was like a concert, essentially. More modern today, they'll record everything separately and mash it together. So because of that, when you're listening with open back headphones, you can hear that full 360 band. With these, you're going to have a harder time. Some of them you can still hear and still point direction, but that soundstage isn't as good, so you're not going to be able to hear it as well. However, because of that lack of soundstage, it means there is no leakage on good pairs. There are pairs that leak like crazy, stay away from those, no matter how good they sound, because these are what you're going to want to take on your bus. This is what you're going to want to listen to and use when you're in a dorm room and all of that. And finally, there's the type of pair that I actually don't own, so I'm going to go over it really fast because I'm not as experienced with it. These are semi-open back, and some people even mod their open backs to become semi-open backs. Semi-open backs have better bass than open backs, but slightly worse bass than closed back. And they also have a much better soundstage than closed back, but not as good as open back. So because of that, it's like a perfect middle ground if you really need both. So those are the two benefits to that. However, there is a little bit of leakage, not as bad as with the open backs, however. And there is still some of that sub-bass roll-off, but not as bad as, again, the open backs. Now, I've been mentioning sub-bass roll-off quite a bit. Let's hop over to the computer in the second part of this video, and we'll go ahead and show you what all that means. Alright, so we're here at artings.com. This is a pretty decent site for headphone reviews. I don't trust the reviews 100%. You should never trust anybody's reviews 100%. But they do include many different types of sound charts, which is useful in today's explainer video. So if we head over to their tools, you will see the graph tool. So let's go ahead. We're going to leave it on frequency response. There are a ton of other types. We're not going to get that far into it. We're just going to go ahead with frequency response. And let's pick a pair like the pair I'm using right now to edit this video and currently using to record, which would be the Sennheiser 58X Jubilees. Here you can see at 90 there is a striped line. This is your target response. It is 90 on every pair of headphones I have seen, and I haven't really seen anything other than 90 for target response. And I'm completely unaware if there even is a pair of headphones that does not target 90. So right here, this low bass, mid bass, high bass, you might take this as lacking in basses. But with these open back particular pair, it's actually pretty good, and some people even say that these are too muddy. I don't think so, and most people don't think so, but there are some people out there who think these are too muddy for open back headphones. Now, again, another word I just mentioned was muddy. Muddy means bass is too high, and then if bass is too high, that means it sort of blends and makes it sort of murky sounding. So this pair of headphones, you can see it keeps pretty true after you get away from that sub-bass roll-off, and it keeps pretty well up until treble range, which is also pretty common. So essentially this 90, now this isn't a pure 100% true answer, but this is like the 101 course answer. You know, they lie to you in 101 and then you get the full truth in 102, 103 classes. So this is essentially, imagine 90 as being what it sounded like when it was being recorded. Like if you were sitting in that room in the center of that band that was playing all the way around you, this 90 is exactly what it sounded like. So that's what a lot of people aim for. Now, there are cases of companies, in fact, let's go ahead and go find a pair of Raycons that do stuff like this. This is what a lot of the veterans will make fun of people for when they come into Audiophile. You see this, in fact, let me get rid of the Jubilees. Just turn the second one off. Alright. You can see here that this is what a lot of people make fun of people for in beginning to get into Audiophile. This is not an Audiophile pair of headphones. This is a okay sounding pair of headphones that they equalized so that the average person would hear this ton of bass and this ton of bright treble sound, and really it's just a cheap way to cover up a decent or bad pair of headphones. Now, some people really like this, and when they go to listen to Audiophile, they're so used to this that they can't get used to it. However, most people will, when they put on a pair of Audiophile headphones, listen to it for a week, and then they can't go back to this. This is because this is just a little bit too much for most people. It's, like I said, a cheaper way of making your headphones sound good to the masses when they're really not that great. So going from those open back Sennheiser headphones that I'm wearing right now to my other pair that I use for non-competitive gaming where I don't need to hear footsteps as well are the Audio-Technica pair. Now you might be seeing this bump here and going, well, you just told us bumps are kind of cheap. Well, this is more of a tasteful bump. You'll see this in a lot of pairs of headphones that are aimed either towards a mix of music and gaming or just aimed for gaming. I believe some people refer this to this as the gamer bump. Essentially, this helps boost those sounds of gunshots in the distance for gaming. And you'll see a little bit of sub-bass roll-off on this closed back pair of headphones, but this really isn't that bad. A lot of headphones are like this. This one, again, stays pretty close to that line, except for, again, the high trebles, which is, again, pretty common. And then the final pair of headphones that I will share with you, which are the Cooler Master MH751s. These are what I use for my VR gaming. Again, that very common sub-bass roll-off, but again, not anywhere near as down here as the Sennheisers were. And again, that treble, but again, staying true to this line. When you're looking for reference studio pairs of headphones, that's what you want to look for. In fact, if we go over to a pair that I see all the time used in the making of things, we can go find Bear Dynamics in here, 770 Pros. You can see how even this is, and this doesn't have as much of a treble roll off. That's kind of common too, but you'll always see this at least a few bumps because trebles are hard to hit perfect. And then up here, this is what's considered as bright sounding. This isn't quite as bad as having a giant bump in the back that comes down in the mids. This is pretty common, especially, and this actually improves, this bump here, the listening sound of when you're hearing somebody talk. But you can see these 770 Pros are extremely flat. So now into the third part of the video. We have other things that are generally included in Audiophile. So what I'm going to address is one of the things a lot of people will pick on the most in Audiophile, and that's people who seek Bluetooth Audiophile headphones. Bluetooth will never be the same, at least not in any time soon, be the same as having a balanced cable for a headphone. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. Some people need Bluetooth, and it's ridiculous that people in the community make fun of Bluetooth because it's a perfectly valid option. This right here is my Plantronics. Yeah, Plantronics. God, I can't even remember the name of these. These are my Plantronic Backbeat 810s, and they're perfectly valid option. They have, according to Artings, a pretty good range and very neutral sounding headphones. And yes, they have delay, and yes, they're not going to be as perfect as a balanced cable, but this is what I use when I'm on the go, and I'm hoping to do a review of these soon. And then we have IEMs. Now, these are essentially used in studios, but they have also made their way into mainstream. A lot of people will just consider these headphones, and I'm not going to be able to get that to focus. But you can see they look like a pair of headphones that go in your ear, hence the name in-ear monitors, IEMs, because they go into your ear. There are many different types of tips. There may be a video on that later. I don't have that many types of tips for these headphones, but a big benefit about buying these over regular things that are just marketed as in-ear headphones, why you might want to look for in-ear monitors, is they have a detachable cable. So this gets cut, broken, you can just replace it. Or, you don't like the sound of the cable because it's not balanced, or it's not made good quality like this one. You get that shirt rubbing sound. You can just replace the cable on these. These are also really good because some of them have microphones. You can use them for calls. These are what I use when I'm, again, on the go, just like my Plantronics, except I don't want those big bulky headphones. I just want something simple. So these are what I wear at work very commonly. So heading back over to Artings, we can go ahead and see another very useful tool. Now, again, like with all sites, take this with a grain of salt, because no two people can hear the same sounds. Well, that's not entirely true. No two people have exactly the same formed ears and have exactly the same hairs in their ears that pick up the sound. Even slight differences can completely change what you can hear and what it sounds like. So now that we're back here, you can see some pretty good tools on Artings. We have neutral sound, commute, travel, sports, fitness, office, wireless gaming, wired gaming, phone calls. What I most commonly do is bump the neutral sound when I'm looking at new pairs of headphones up to 7.5, and then I add in extra things. So if I want an extra pair of wireless headphones, I just select wireless, select yes, and truly wireless. And you can see that brings up all the above 7.5 neutral sound headphones. And in fact, if we bump this up, and if we get rid of this, bump this up even higher, they've never actually scored anything above an 8.6, it appears. You can see the Sennheiser HD800S and the Hi-Fi Man area. These are expensive, very expensive. But they are really good sounding. In fact, if we scroll down to their sound profile, for their frequency response sound profile, you can see they're not as flat as the Beyerdynamics 770, but they aren't always going to be that flat. Some of the companies are going to take slightly more creative liberties for these types of headphones, and that's okay. You don't need to aim for that perfectly flat. And again, that's something a lot of people get kind of bullied into in the community is, oh, you have a little bit too much treble, or oh, those have a little bit too much bass. Go with what sounds good to you. This is not a perfectly flat pair of headphones. It's far less flat all the way up till treble range than the Beyerdynamics 770s, but it's the highest scored one here. It's got better bass accuracy, better mid accuracy, and better treble accuracy, even though it's not perfectly flat like the Beyerdynamics. So you've seen how I use this. Now, other things might be important to you, like wired or wireless gaming. However, I tend to ignore those because I know what I'm looking for in those graphs for my gaming preferences. And you'll probably eventually be able to learn that too. But again, you can't just base it all on graphs, because sometimes they do something slightly different with how they the cans on your earphones, that's the outer part. The cans on your earphones are formed differently, and that causes them to need to increase in some areas and decrease in other areas. However, it sounds better because those cans are different than a different pair. So You can't just go based off of that graph. So if we go over to compare headphones, which is another really useful tool they have here, you can compare your headphones. In fact, let's go ahead and compare two of my headphones, Sennheiser Jubilees, and let's do the Audio-Technica M50X. You can see here that while these are very close together in a lot of things, and in fact these are rated higher for everything except neutral sound and wired gaming. And the thing about the Sennheisers is you can see how different those foam pads are. That can change the sound entirely, those foam pads. So if you don't like how a pair of headphones is sounding to you when you initially buy them, before throwing them out and never using them again, try buying different pads for the ears if they're replaceable. If not, then oh well. But try buying different pads for the ears, because chances are you will be able to change it enough to your likings. And then another important thing that I like that they do here is they compare breathability on the ears, so how much heat's generated after wearing them for a prolonged period of time. And then you can see, compare these two sound profiles. You can see this one has got that roll off. This isn't as bad. This one has a bit more of that bump in gaming and a bit lower in the mid treble range. However, some people prefer the M50Xs way more than they prefer the 58X Jubilees. A lot of it is about personal preference, and there are some veterans in the community that go, no, you have to use this whether you like it or not, and it's just not right. It's wrong. Your ears are probably shaped different than theirs. Ears are normally shaped different between every single person. So as long as you like what you're hearing and you're using these basic tips that I'm giving you, you're going to get yourself a good pair of headphones. And then the final thing I want to discuss is where you are getting your music from. I use Spotify, and a lot of people will tell you not to do that. However, that is going to change soon. The reason being is because currently Spotify does not have lossless quality hi-fi audio. Everything you hear is slightly compressed to fit on their servers. However, with both Apple Music and with Spotify, that is changing. They are going to offer hi-fi audio plans soon. Now, I'm one of those people who has an 800 song playlist because they don't separate their music based on their mood. So it would be very hard for me to change this, which is why I decided to wait before changing it. Now, when I first got into this about 5 or 6 months ago to a year ago, there was no promise of this hi-fi audio. Now that it's here, I'm definitely just going to wait because there's no way I'm going to change over to a lossless audio quality streaming service with all 821 songs. The chances of everybody having those songs to begin with is low, having all of those songs, and the chance that the sheer changing over of it is low. So using any preferred music streaming service, especially with Spotify and Apple Music having hi-fi coming soon, is perfectly fine. A lot of people will go, oh no, you need to use this one. Oh no, you need to use this one. Go ahead and look up a few examples like Tidal, Deezer, even Amazon Music has hi-fi already. However, Amazon Music, you need their higher tier one. So if you go to What Hi-Fi, which is another great site by the way, and scroll down, you'll see Tidal at number 1. A lot of people really like Tidal, but some tracks are hard to get. Spotify, the two big reasons: not the best sounding streams and no lossless option. That's changing soon, thankfully. So those Spotify could very easily become the #1 hi-fi streaming option very soon. Again, Apple Music, same thing, no hi-fi, but going to get it soon. And there are a bunch of options. If you don't have a ginormous playlist and you don't want to wait for Apple Music or for Spotify to get their hi-fi options, go ahead and do some research into them. I'd recommend Tidal. I don't have any experience with it, but I know people who do, and they are really into it. And then the last thing we can talk about is something we're just going to touch on, which is DACs and amps. A DAC is a digital to analog converter, and everything you use that has an audio jack on it or Bluetooth audio has one. However, some are made significantly better than others. Personally, I use a cheaper one from Amazon made by FX Audio. It's the DAC X6, and that is perfectly good enough to run and sound better on all headphones. So you may be going, but my computer sounds fine, why would I need one? Well, you get into these things called ohms and resistance when you're talking about hi-fi audio. So for example, your pair of Apple earbuds that come in the case, that come in the box, or used to come in the box with your iPhone, they would have 40 ohms of resistance, and that's actually pretty high for headphones of that caliber. And then these Sennheiser HD58X Jubilees, they're 120. Your phone can run both of these reasonably. However, the 120 would benefit from a DAC and amp combo, which is why I have a DAC which has a built-in amp in it. And honestly, I would not go above 120 ohms without first researching a DAC and amp combo. And anything above 80 ohms will benefit from a DAC and amp. Anything above 120, I'd say you need a DAC and amp. However, like I said, my phone can run these 120 ohm pair of headphones perfectly fine. And don't take it as, oh, these have higher ohms, they're better. Like I said, the earbuds that come with your iPhone, they're 40 ohms. There are pairs of headphones that are audiophile and perfectly good reference that are 32 ohms. Higher does not necessarily mean better in these circumstances. However, it's something you want to research before you go and buy a pair of headphones, because if you plug your headphones in to your computer or your phone and it's not powerful enough to push all the ohms, it's going to be really quiet, or you might not hear anything at all. And if you buy headphones that are really, really cheap and you plug them into a DAC, you crank it all the way up, you could actually pop the headphones. The part that produces the sound, the driver, could literally just sort of poof and stop working. However, that's not a problem with most headphones. Those IEMs I showed you, they're a $20 pair of IEMs made by a company called KZ, which is a really good, cheap company if you want a pair of IEMs. I can crank my DAC all the way up and those won't pop. I'm talking more about, you buy an MP3 player and you have those really cheap headphones that come with it. You crank the DAC up all the way and you're going to pop those. And some pairs of headphones get really, really high in the ohms count. In fact, there's a pair of 800 ohm headphones called, hang on. Sorry, 600 ohm. I don't think there's any 800. There's 600 ohm headphones, which is ridiculously hard to push, and your computer and phone will not be able to push them on your own, and you will need a DAC and amp combo for that. There's no exception to that. So hopefully this video proved helpful to anybody looking into getting into the audiophile scene, and even maybe some people who are already in it and didn't know everything about it. Hopefully I got everything right. I believe I did. If I didn't, make sure to let me know respectfully in the comments. And go ahead if you enjoyed this, and if you want to see more, because I'm definitely going to have more audiophile based videos and they're going to be a little bit more exciting than this introduction video. They're going to be coming in the future. So if you liked the video, if you learned something, and if you're now into the audiophile side of headphones, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Peace.